You're listening to Smart Moves with your hosts, Ann-Riley Caldwell and Matt Wilson.
Hey everybody, welcome to Smart Moves, the podcast here where we help you make smart strategic choices all about real estate mortgages, and we have found life here in Tennessee. So anyway, welcome. I'm Ann-Riley Caldwell, not your ordinary agent, and I'm here with
Matt Wilson, the mortgage guy.
That's right. So today we're going to help people that are sellers that also want to buy a new home. We're going to tackle the subject of can you buy before you sell? And should you? So there's can I, which we can help handle. Should you? You probably have to make that decision after we walk you through some stuff. But anyway, we're excited because all the time people are obviously having changes in their life where they already own a home, but they want to make a change, whether they're downsizing, upsizing, whatever it is that is going on in life. Usually life transition things is what we see. But if you have a house and you want to buy a house, then obviously there are some issues with that. Some of them are emotional. You know, people I know on the real estate side, which is my specialty, it's a stressful situation many times because it's a question of when should I put my house on the market versus when should I start going to look at houses to buy. What if I find a house that I want to buy, but I don't have my home on the market or under contract yet? What if my home gets under contract and I haven't found my next home that I really want to move into? Where am I going to go in between? Do I want to move twice? I mean, there's just so many things that come up. Is the seller on the other home going to take my offer seriously if I still own a second home? And how are we going to make them feel good about that? When am I going to be able to close? So anyway, these are the things that I watch go around and round in the heads of people who own a home and are wanting to move. So I get it, Matt gets it, and one of the great things about us is we're here to support you, give you the answers that you need to make the best decisions for you, and help you stay calm. I had one buyer who's moving here across the country, and she was laying awake at night, and thankfully I was able to give her some reassurance about some things, and she finally slept 3 nights in a row like a baby. So it is possible to be stressed, but also to talk to us and help us not only get your transactions to closing, but also do it hopefully in a less stressful, more peaceful way.
So was that reassurance? Did you mail her a bottle of the local Jack Daniels product, or I kid.
No, actually, I just talked her through. Well, the one thing I've found in life, because sometimes we found that we're now giving life advice too, is the more logical you think, the more it overrides your emotions in your head. So that at least works for me. So the more that we can talk about strategy and the less we talk about emotions, and sometimes the better. But
yeah. Well, honestly, that would make all of life a lot easier if we could all do that. But anyway, I digress.
I know. I'm pretty good at bringing people back to the logical side because that's more what I'm good at. But I'm working on the empathy and sympathy. I have it. I just don't always show it. So I don't know if that should be part of the podcast, but I really am more empathetic and sympathetic than sometimes I might come across because I do get caught up in strategy sometimes. Yeah,
absolutely. I do too. So I think that, a lot of the times it's like, what's the fear behind the question, right? It's, what if you sell and you wind up homeless because you hadn't found the right house or whatever? Or what if the deal falls apart in one form or another? Like, what if the person that's buying your house falls out of contract because they quit their job or any of another dozen things they could do that's stupid? Like, there is a lot, just frankly, that's out of your control in a transaction, but there's also a lot that you can do to mitigate some of those problems. So what situations have you seen where it makes the most sense to go ahead and buy the next house versus parking and waiting until you sell the existing house?
Well, I think obviously on your side that we're going to get into is financially, is that even an option for people? And sometimes it's more of an option than what people think. So I think sometimes after they talk to you, they're surprised that that is actually an option. One of the things I love about New American Funding, which is where Matt is affiliated and is a branch manager, you guys have some programs that we're going to dig into that actually help that happen in situations that other lenders may not be able to help that happen. And also it's partly what's going on the other side of the home that they're buying and what the sellers need. So one of the things that I help negotiate and navigate is the timing and a lot of communication with the agent on the other side of the transaction, trying to help everybody sort of have a win-win, and what flexibility is there in the transaction with the timing of the closing. There's just so much that goes into it, which is why talking early on, before you're ready. I always tell people it's never too early, but it can almost be too late. So, I mean, Matt and I talk to people all the time that are anywhere from I'm ready to do it now to a year to 2 years out from thinking about doing something for that reason. But, I mean, in some instances, as long as financially they can find a way to do it, and depends on what's happening in the market. I mean, I think it's easier than what a lot of people think.
Yeah, I've absolutely experienced that too. I mean, I've helped multiple families this year just purchase without any of the special programs, before they sold the last house, and they just didn't realize that they could just qualify that way. They had no idea. A lot of people.
I think there's a myth out there that unless it's an investment property, you can only own one house at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is completely not true. Just ask BlackRock. They own thousands and thousands and thousands of houses.
Individuals.
Did I just call that out? Okay. This one's not going to stay on YouTube for long. They probably own half of Google. Anyway, so
leave it to Matt to get us kicked off all the social media.
Yeah, there we go. Getting us canceled right here today. If Theo Vaughn can ask the vice president about cocaine, then I can say that about BlackRock, I'm sure. All right, so back to the show. As far as my experiences with those people that have been moving, you're absolutely right. Some of them think, "Oh, I can't own two houses." Well, there's nothing that says that you can't. Debt to income ratio a lot of the times is the biggest limiting factor for people because you might have to float two mortgage payments, and we obviously want to make sure that if you're floating two mortgage payments, that first there's enough money there to do so, and secondly that once you do it, you got enough money to eat on. But then also, the biggest thing that I've seen other than home inspections in the recent market, tell me if you've seen something different, is sell at home contingencies being the thing that blows up a deal. I mean, it's like the entire real estate market right now in America is waiting on one person to buy a house somewhere so that the rest of these dominoes can start falling. Are you seeing something different?
Well, no, let me jump in and just explain that and say yes. One of the things on the real estate side that we can do is have a home contingency that says in the actual purchase and sale agreement when you want to go buy the next house that you will not be closing on that house until you are able to sell your house. So depending totally upon what the sellers need for the house that you're trying to buy, and also depending on what's going on in the market, if we're in a multiple offer market or even just that one house has multiple offers, which is honestly what I'm seeing right now, it's just random houses are getting multiple offers, but it's not across the board like it was several months ago, a couple years ago. So it really just depends, and whether or not the sellers of that home can actually wait for you to close. They're almost always going to mandate, quote unquote, that you at least have your house listed. So, or that we're going to list it within, say, 2 or 3 days. So therefore, we have to have photographs. We need to be ready to go if it's not already listed, for sure. So we can't take, a week or 2 or 2 months to get your house on the market if you have a sale of home contingency. So, but under certain circumstances, it's definitely doable. So I would say that it's worth trying it if that's really what you need to do. So in that instance, that's definitely the easiest way to sort of navigate the whole thing. So that is an option on the real estate side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Most of the time they are going to require an underwriting that somebody lists the previous house, because they want to make sure that we're not doing a investment property and calling it a primary or something like that. Investment property, obviously you don't live in. Primary residence means that it's your primary house. You live there. Primaries are usually considered a little less risky. That being said, there's also things like bridge loans out there. With bridge loans, it gives us the ability to advance some of the equity out of your current house. Because one hang up for a lot of families is that most of their net worth is in the house. It's not like they're sitting on a pile of cash that they can use for down payment and closing costs. It's either in their house or it's in their 401k, which neither one's easy to get to. So if you do a bridge loan, it's named that because it's like a bridge between house A to house B. But the way ours works, I'm just disclaim it and say this is how ours works as of the recording date. This may change over time. It's a interest-only loan for 12 months, and you don't make a monthly payment on it. So you don't have to float the monthly payment on the mortgage plus the monthly payment on your previous house. And it allows you to pull the money out and put it towards your next house for down payment. So you can kind of kill three birds with one stone there when it comes to it. And I helped a family do that not too long ago. That particular family, part of their issue was when they were wanting to list their house to get out of, they owned like 5 bearded dragons, a couple of dogs, and a partridge in a pear tree or something like that. Like they had a zoo going on over there. Obviously, if I'm a home buyer, I ain't interested in walking through the house, and they knew this. You're not interested in walking through the house to see their big old creepy bearded dragon looking at you. You're probably not going to buy that house. No offense to those that are bearded dragon lovers, whatever. They're just, it's not Fido. With that being the case, though, they were able to buy their next house and move into it. And yes, their previous house was listed. They did not take pictures of the inside of the house yet because obvious reasons. But they were able to go ahead and make that move so that they could truly get the previous house ready and get a top dollar offer on it relative to the market versus having to fire sell it to an investor because your average family didn't want to come look at it because they couldn't see past the, PetSmart in the back room. So, yeah. Now, the other thing, though, to be cautious about with bridge loans, they all function a little bit differently. Like those are one type of loan where it's going to be very different from lender to lender. Make sure that it is a situation that gives you enough runway to actually sell your house. Because if not, you're kind of stuck. You're the one that's standing there holding the bag for 2 houses once it's all said and done. In the case of ours, if you hit that 12-month wall, it's a balloon loan is what it's considered. So that means that at the end of the loan period, the entirety has to be paid. They're counting on you selling the house to pay that entirety. But that's also why we can't, it's a little bit conservative on the underwriting. Like they're not going to do that and give you 100% of your home's equity. They want to make sure that you can reasonably sell the house and have some wiggle room on that price if you need to. But just make sure that you're okay and fully understand the risks associated so that at the end of your period, you're not stuck with 2 houses and no way to pay for one of them.
Yeah, and I mean, that's obviously where keeping a pulse on the market and on, the specific neighborhood that your house is in. I mean, what's the competition looking like? What's closed lately? I mean, that's where I do high-level research to help you walk through and have as best a guesstimate as we can as to how long it's likely to take. And if your house doesn't sell right away, what does it look like? How can we market it even better, even more? Do we have to take some price cuts? And if so, how often? All of that becomes a strategy to making sure that surely within a 12-month period of time, we can get your house sold. So that is something that we obviously will walk through both on the financial side as well as the real estate side to make sure you're getting all your questions answered and you feel confident. In the short term, there's also ways to negotiate. If you're waiting to buy a house, you can try to negotiate to lease your house back for a period of time from the people who are buying it. So that way you can go ahead and close and you can go ahead and have the money sitting there ready to use for the transaction when you do close on your next house. Sometimes you see the opposite, not very often, but sometimes the buyers move into a house early. I don't recommend that one, but I mean, there are options out there that we can discuss. And then, of course, there are some people that get caught in between. So, I also talk to people about the strategy of looking at what's out there to rent for a period of time. And I've had people that, that's what worked out, and they had to be here for a job or something happened, and they've needed to Airbnb something for a couple weeks or for a month or two. The hardest thing, honestly, is finding short-term rentals. So Airbnb, VRBO, some of those things have to come into play. Sometimes I can ask around, and there's agents that have clients that will do a short-term rental. They're not going to advertise it. That's not their goal, but sometimes we can help you find things to move into that you're not stuck in a 6 or 12 or 18-month lease. So that's the trick, is just finding something that isn't going to lock you into a lease. And I've had some clients who signed leases that did not clearly read how long their lease was for. So don't do that either.
I guess depending on how unclear it is, that could work to your favor. But, I'm not an attorney. So with that being said, like on the financing front, there's a couple of other options out there that they can be explored as well. They give you, outside of just a bridge loan, that give you the opportunity to go ahead and make the move. Like one of the biggest ones that we've got access to, that, I mean, it's named after our company. It's literally our company's money, so I know it's exclusive to us. It's called NAF Cash. But basically what that's like is, like, if you remember the Fresh Prince, you got Uncle Phil there, the rich uncle. Well, we're your rich uncle. We buy you the house. You just pay cash for it through us, which might get you a better opportunity as far as the pricing goes on the house. And from there, you then buy that house back from us. You just pay rent to us. That way you don't have to worry about, oh crap, I got to go find an Airbnb and stay there for a month or two while I'm working on getting this house, previous house sold, this house bought, and all that stuff. Like, here's the thing, especially if you're moving across the country or something, there's just no way around saying it this way. It's not cheap. I mean, you're talking about packing up the entirety of your life, putting in a moving truck or a couple of moving trucks, and sending it to Timbuktu from wherever you started. So, a lot of these can actually, while they may cost a little bit of money in their own right, they may save you money from having to pay pods to store your stuff for the next 6 months while you're trying to sort it out. Or God forbid you go sign a 12-month lease, and the next thing you know, you've paid $25,000 in rent payments over the next 12 months or whatever. So
plus, you probably had to store your stuff because it didn't fit into the place that you're renting for $2,000 a month.
Yeah, right. Which, leads us to our next point, not on this podcast, but clean out your crap, I mean.
It's a great time. The one good thing about moving is it's a great time to downsize all your stuff too.
100%. Yeah. Hey, this is the time where you really need to know, do I actually need this scarf that I got at Disney World 12 years ago? Maybe you do.
Do
maybe
I need
you don't.
5 of these? Whatever this is. Do I need 5 or 10 of them? Can I do with just 1 or 2 of them?
Right. Why do I have 75 chip clips in a drawer right now? I don't know. My wife probably doesn't either. We don't even eat that many chips.
I think you've got bigger issues if you have 75 bags of potato chips open at the same time.
100%. 100%. So yeah, quick plug for the minimalist lifestyle there, I guess, that I don't completely follow myself, but it will make it easier if you start thinking through that stuff. Now, don't overdo it. My parents at one point packed up their house to move out of and culled through things, and then it didn't sell as fast as they would have liked, and they had to buy some of the things they had in a box stored in storage somewhere, so that was fun. But anyway, make sure that even then that it's going to make enough sense for you to use one of those specialty products, because everything does come at a cost. Sometimes the convenience is enough to outweigh that cost. I'm not somebody that thinks that the dollar for dollar amount's always the thing that's exactly what you have to provide value off of, because you can get a pair of swimming shorts at Walmart, but in my experience, they're not going to be very comfy on the beach compared to getting a nice pair. So, there you go. And in the same way, you may wind up trying to save a penny on doing one of the specialty products and spending a whole lot more than that in all these additional fees and stuff like that. Now, all of the options we've talked about today are options that assume that you're relatively well qualified. I mean, you're not going to get to stack up keeping 2 houses on a bridge loan and 580 credit with minimal down payment. It's just, pick something there that's a complication, but you ain't getting all of those. That's not how it works. That's how '08 happened. That's how the housing crash happened, with stuff like that. So do be mindful of that. Like, this is something that if you are planning that, here's the thing, you already own a house. So you probably are better qualified than a lot of first-time home buyers, if for no other reason than if you've been there for a few years, you've probably got a lot of equity. I mean, what have you seen though on your end as far as like being able to get offers accepted without the contingencies easier, or if it's a cash offer through like a NAF Cash or something? Like, what have you seen out there that's impacted your buyer experiences with?
Well, I mean, honestly, every situation is different, and that's why it's important to have people that you trust to walk you through what the options truly are. And, there's also people on the other side, as I've mentioned. I mean, obviously in the transaction that you have to take into account, one seller at one house is going to be willing to potentially do something completely different than a seller at another house. And then is that going to help you pick between those 2 houses? Some people, if there's a house that they really want, you've seen it, they'll move heaven and earth to get that house, and they will pay whatever it costs to get it. There's some people that don't care that much. Between house A and house B, they'll take either one. So then at that point, it's really which one is going to work best, for everybody in that situation. So, I mean, a lot of it is obviously timing. I mean, some people just want to move, so they can be more flexible. Some people are starting school, or they're starting a new job, or, their parents aren't doing well and they can't wait 6 months to move across the country to help take care of them. So, I mean, honestly, as I think you've seen, there are some people that do real estate just for the transactions, especially when it comes to investments, but most people are moving sometimes because they just want to. They want to downsize, they want to upsize, but there's no real timetable that has to happen. But what I'm finding more and more of is there are people relocating and needing to buy and sell because there's truly a life situation that's putting a time frame on it. And those 2 things are completely different. I mean, when I'm talking to somebody that just wants to do something, then the time frame is loosey-goosey. That's one thing. But when there's a time crunch, it's totally different. So, all of that has to get taken into account when we're talking to people.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and you're right. I've seen plenty of people and agents that it's just pushing numbers, essentially. But in this market especially, what I've noticed is everybody I've talked to that wants to buy in recent history, it's not because they're mad at their neighbor right now. It's because their kid needs to go to a different school. They've got to move for work. They've got, some sort of health issue that requires that they move to a different part of the country. Or something like that is going on. It's very rare right now that it's just, I casually woke up this morning and thought, I want to buy a different house than this one because my neighbor sucks and lets his chihuahuas out at 3 a.m. every day and it wakes me up. Unfortunately, with the market as it is, a lot of people right now are I have a neighbor that sucks that lets her chihuahuas out at 3 a.m. in real life, guys. If I had known that, I probably wouldn't have bought this house to start with. But I did, so I'm here now with my beautiful little interest rate, and probably not moving because of that just yet. So I'm one of them, but I think the biggest takeaway for me is just like, it is possible that you can do this. You just want to make sure that you have talked to an agent, talked to a lender, preferably us, and gotten everything kind of ironed out ahead of time, because the one surefire way to make it all horrible is to not explore those options and not know what you could do as you're transitioning either across town or across the country.
Yeah, because what I see is a lot of people make a lot of assumptions, or as Matt and I like to say, talk to your uncle that hasn't bought a home in 60 years or something, and take advice from the wrong people and then just mess it all up. And then you really don't have any options, or you don't have the options that you could have had. So, I mean, we see it all the time. I mean, I listen to some people and I'm like, where did you get that idea from? It's not even, shouldn't even be a thought. And it also creates more stress because now you're worried about things that really aren't issues, or there was a really easy resolution to them. And, you know, this podcast is meant to give you hope. So, I mean, we do double transactions all the time. You go to one closing, you sign and you sell one house, and you turn around and you buy another house like 15 minutes later. So it happens all the time. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be hard. We do everything that we can to keep that from happening, but there are just situations where everything just doesn't line up perfectly and you just can't close on both transactions on the same day. But there's definitely resolutions out there, either on the real estate side and or the financing side. And one of the reasons I love NAF is because they do have that cash program. There's other companies out there that try to do something somewhat similar, but it's possible, but it becomes much more disjointed, probably ends up costing you more money. You have to involve another party, and you know, it can just get kind of gnarly when push comes to shove.
Yeah, I mean, and our product for that, the NAF Cash product, they do change the guidelines somewhat regularly to make it a sustainable product and make sure that it doesn't cause those kinds of problems after the fact. So, you know, if that's something that somebody wants to explore, I'd say let's have a conversation about where it's at that point in time, because if you're watching this tomorrow, I can tell you what the guidelines are, but if you're watching this in 6 months, they may be slightly different because we adjust it with the market. But yeah.
So, I mean, we're here for you always to lower the stress, to give you as much peace as possible through the process, to help you make smart, strategic decisions as you're trying to figure out what to do. We're people. We're not transaction people. So one of the things that sets us apart is we're here honestly to give you the best answers that we can, to help you navigate through everything as easy as possible and help you make the best decision for you. As Matt and I always say, we're not the one paying the mortgage. So, you know, we want you to get through the process as easy as possible and make the best choices that you possibly can. So anyway, we hope you enjoyed the podcast. As always, if you have any questions, reach out to me or Matt. We're always here for you, and we will see you on the next Smart Moves episode.